right. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to RBCM at Outside. I'm going to carefully take off my mask. My name is Liz Crocker, and I'm a learning program developer at the Royal BC Museum. And if you've not joined us before, this is a live outside program. And every couple of weeks, we get to a different outdoor location. I used to do a program called Field Trippers at the museum where we would meet in places outside around Victoria, and I miss doing that, and hopefully we'll get to do that later on this year, maybe, I don't know. But in the meantime, we've been meeting digital in this digital online world, which has been great because we get to have people with us from all over the place, as we've seen from the folks that are in the chat. So welcome, everybody. And the format is webinar, so we can't see or hear you. You're interacting with the chat if you're in the Zoom. And then there's also folks on Facebook Live, and those folks can also comment and ask questions in the chat. And my colleague Jenny is in the Zoom room, and she'll transfer over any questions from Facebook to us. So I am here in Victoria, BC, the capital of BC, on the southern tip of Vancouver Island, and I am on Beacon Hill Park. And we are in the territory of the Lekwungen speaking people, the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations. And I'm gonna flip my camera around because it's so beautiful. Excuse that, yeah, look at that, and minus the cars. So right out there, and when there we are, is the stretch of the sea right between us and Port Angeles, Washington. So I'm facing south. And I'm going to just do a little pan here. You'll see our guest Heidi Guest, who I will introduce shortly. It's going to little turn around. For those of you who know Beacon Hill Park, this will give you an idea of where we are. There's the flagpole. Turn around, and turning around slowly, so I don't make you too dizzy. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I was going to say, so when early explorers came to this shore, and they came along around what is now Beacon Hill Park, some of the Europeans commented that this place looked remarkably like home because there were meadows. Well, there were meadows because people were here harvesting and growing camas. And so they were working the landscape, and it was a managed landscape. That's why it looks so familiar to them. And this park is really famous for its beautiful camas, which is ready to come out. Not quite yet, but in the spring. So just always like to acknowledge where we are, the territory, and I'm very grateful to be able to work and learn in this beautiful place, and so thankful that the rain has stopped. Blue skies. Right, so I wanted to say before we get going, the next program is in 2 weeks, March 24th, 2 p.m. And I'm going to be outside at a shoreline here in Victoria with Dr. Henry Chung and Dr. Joel Gibson. Joel is an entomologist, studies insects, and Henry studies marine invertebrates. And we're going to be looking, it's called Springtime at the Beach, or the Shoreline. I can't remember what I called it. And we're going to be looking at what are those invertebrates that are living along or showing up and coming out in springtime along a shore on the Pacific Ocean. So join us for that one. All right, now, Jenny, I think this is a good time to pull up the quiz. I want to do this quick little quiz before we turn it over to Heidi. And she's listening, so she might chime in on some answers. So if you're in the Zoom room, you can answer in there. If you're in Facebook, you can play along. You can put answers in the chat if you want. So really quickly, the first one, true or false? Butterflies need stinging nettle to complete their lifestyle. True or false? So go ahead and put your selection. It's completely anonymous, I should add. Nobody's going to know who said what. True or false? Butterflies need stinging nettle to complete their life cycle. And once we've got some answers in there, Jenny, we can go to the next one. And then I think we'll go back through all of them all together. I think that works. Yes? If I don't hear from you, that's what we'll do.
Yes, so right now we have people answering their questions.
Okay, I see it's up on my screen. So if I go close, I hope I didn't wreck it.
Nope.
Now it's gone. Okay, so we'll go with the second question when you're ready.
I think it may be a little bit difficult when you're on the phone. All the attendees can see all the questions, so they all have been answered.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks, Jenny. Okay, well, let's just, we'll give everybody a few seconds to answer the rest of the questions, and then we'll go through them. Unless you think we should start now. Oh, the heavy silence.
Let's give everyone 20 more seconds.
Sure.
To answer. I will Let me just read them out so the people on
Okay.
Facebook can hear it so they can think
Oh,
or answer in the
perfect.
chat.
Thank you.
So
I
yes,
can't see them.
so the first one was true or false, butterflies need stinging nettle to complete their life cycle. Second question, true or false, you can buy stinging nettle tea at your local health food store. Number 3, true or false, you can harvest stinging nettle wherever you find it because it's considered a weed. And the last one is if your skin is stung by stinging nettle, you can ease the sting by, and there's 4 different results, either apply a cold compress, cover the area with mud, apply aloe vera, or all of the above. So those are all the questions. We have quite a few answers. A lot of people in the Zoom room have been answering. If you're at
Excellent.
On Facebook, it may be hard for us to see you answering live, but maybe just think of those in your head. I'll give it about 10 more seconds and then I'll end the poll and then I'll tell you what the results are.
Thank you, Jenny. Such fun. Pop quiz.
All right, I'm going to end in 3, 2, 1, and polling.
Right.
All right.
Okay. So first question, true or false? The butterflies needing stinging nettle to complete their life cycle. That is true. Oh, you're putting up all the results. Thank you, Jenny. Now I see them. Oh, okay, so yeah, it's kind of close, but most people said true. That is true. I was told by Claudia Copley, one of our entomologists at the museum, that there's 5 species of butterflies in BC that depend on stinging nettle. The caterpillars eat the stinging nettle. So that is awesome. And number 2, true or false, you can buy stinging nettle tea. Yes, we got 93% said yes, you can purchase it. And Heidi, when she's chatting with you, she's going to talk a little bit about uses of the tea. So she'll go into that a bit more. Number 3, you can harvest stinging nettle wherever you find it because it's considered a weed. Most people guess true. Good guesses, everybody. But false is actually the correct answer. So it's not considered a weed. And Heidi will be talking about the different species of stinging nettle a little bit. But just you cannot, for example, you could harvest it if it's your property. You cannot harvest in parks. That is protected for the plants and animals that live in the park. It's protected habitat, any park. So even here at Beacon Hill Park, we cannot harvest it. And then, oh yeah, Heidi, you mentioned if you were in an area where there was runoff, toxic substances, or by a commercial farm, that she's gonna follow up when she's mic'd. Sorry, the back and forth with the mic is too cumbersome, but she's gonna follow up on that a bit later. But you just want to be careful where you pick. Make sure you have permission from the landowners. And if it's a public park, you don't have permission. And number 4, if your skin is stung. Yeah, so let's see. Yeah, most people put all of the above. It is all of the above. And there's some other ways, apparently, that I used to put mud on stinging nettle stings. I've done that before and it's quite effective. Thanks, Jenny. Heidi was just mentioning to me, there are other solutions, but using actually the juice from the stinging nettle itself, I'll let her talk about that a bit more, will make the sting less. But also just to note, if you ever have a reaction, because you could have a allergic reaction, make sure you seek medical attention. And apparently if little ones get stinging nettle, you should get medical attention, or at least find out if they're okay. And of course, there's always exceptions to these rules. So just always be careful with plants. So I am going to introduce Heidi. And oh yeah, I'm seeing some other things coming up on there. Thank you, Jan. Yes, baking soda paste is also supposed to work quite well. So what I'm gonna do is mask myself. We're outside, but I'm gonna mask myself in case I get within 6 feet of Heidi. She's gonna eventually take her mask off, and then she's gonna take us on a little journey here at the park for 15 minutes or so, and then we'll have time at the end for question and answer. If there's anything really pressing while we're going along, we can attempt to answer those. And yeah, so Heidi, let me flip it around now while I awkwardly put my mask back on. She's over there. She's going to get a mic in a minute. But Heidi Guest is the collections manager of the Botany collection at the Royal BC Museum. Let me get my mask on without knocking out my earbuds. Here we go. And yeah, so botany, study of plants. So I'm going to turn it over to Heidi. I'm going to get her mic on. So I'm going to take mine out. Yeah. should be loud. Okay, there you go.
Hello. Can you hear me? I hope you can.
Yes, we're good.
Great. Thanks for having me. And
Oh no, I think Liz may have accidentally left. One moment.
we're flying.
Hello. Can you hear us, Jenny?
Yes, you can. I'm just about to share some learning portal stuff, but you've made it back. Thank
We're
you.
right side up and everything?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, and I'm mic'd apparently, so I don't know what happened. We got completely booted out of the room. We love technology when it works.
Oh, so right now, Heidi is mic'd, so we're good to go.
Oh, perfect.
Okay.
You can take your mask.
Yay. I'm not locked. There we go. So let's walk towards the patch. First, I'm going to talk about how to identify stinging nettles. And then we're going to talk a little bit about where they grow, but we could maybe talk about that first. There is a slide of the habitat, the moist habitat. So they tend to like, great. So they tend to like to be in wet places, but not all. They don't have to be. I have a feeling that they might like to be in wet places, at least in the spring, and wet and coolish. So where we're going right now is it's moist. It's probably receiving water from the hill, so it's going to have moister soil than it would later in the season. As anybody who's from here knows, this hill can get very dry in the summertime. And it grows actually all over the place. It's often considered a weed. And apparently it's at least it or members of its family are found on just about every continent on Earth. It has probably been in North America for a very long time, but apparently it's native to Europe, Asia, North Africa. It flourishes in the climate that we have here, where it's cool temperate. So it's not too hard to find them around here, although in the last couple of weeks, we've actually had trouble finding a good patch to use for filming, but luckily we found one, and it's just here at Beacon Hill, not even too far from the museum. So, sure. Yeah, so, well, maybe we should go in and take a look at the plants, and I'll talk about how to identify them. Okay. Do you want to do that?
Yep, she's just pulled up the opposite.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the first things you can recognize, is that they have opposite leaves, which means the leaves grow out of the stem on the same level on either side. And then there'll be another set like this. Yeah, so that's a very good indicator. They also have square stems. Here we are. We're at the patch. It's not huge. There's lots of ivy, but you can see they're coming up here. So they have square stems, and I'm going to put some gloves on and I can move the plants around and show you stuff. So And if you show me the slide, show them the slide of the stipules. So here's our opposite leaves. Whoops. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Stipules are, they're going to be little growths at the base of the leaf stem. So, and I'm not going to use the botanical terminology, but.
Well, you could try.
So the leaf stem is called the petiole. And these guys right here are the.
And those rubber gloves
stipules.
are good enough protection.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't hold it really tightly. I'm pretty sure they're going to do me all right. And I was going to try and show you the square stem. So you can sort of, yeah. If we had a nice dead stalk, actually, you can sort of see that they're squarish.
Oh, is that Nettle?
I believe so. It looks like it. Anyway, so those are three things you can.
It's quite distinct.
And the other, yeah. And the other thing is that they're fuzzy looking. However, there's lots of nice fuzzy looking things like mint and I don't know. Yeah. So the fuzz is made up of hairs, very sharp, and they're hollow. And when you brush by them, they tend to break off and lodge into your skin. And beneath each hair, there's a reservoir in the leaf that's full of formic acid. Yes, my lovely artistic diagram. Yes. So when you get stung, basically the formic acid goes up through that needle like a hypodermic needle and gets into your skin. And formic acid is the same stuff that's in bee stings and ant stings. So that's why you can have an allergic reaction. Generally, it'll hurt and start feeling can get very itchy, but it can last for days. Eventually, obviously, it goes away, but not a pleasant thing. So, you always got to be careful. Sometimes you're out in the bush and you inadvertently rub next to them and you'll feel it. There are ways to pick them without hurting yourself, but we'll talk about that in a little while. So we've talked about the habitat and we've talked about how to identify them. So they've been in the culture in Europe in particular, as far in the European tradition, they've probably been used, eaten, etc. for millennia. I believe there's records of their use in Roman texts. They're probably one of the most versatile and helpful plants out there. In terms of medicine, they are, first of all, they're completely safe. They are what's called tonic. So they basically strengthen and support all the systems of the body. They're also great for reducing and stopping bleeding. They're great for as a diuretic, mild diuretic. So if you take them, you're not going to have too much trouble in that department. And they are even considered to be good for allergies. Isn't that ironic? And as we were saying, when you get stung, probably the best remedy is the juice of the plant itself. So the Europeans, as I said, the First Nations use them. I'm not going to talk about the First Nations use. Yeah. As far as the European tradition, though, all of those uses, they're also extremely nutritious for eating. They've got iron, high amounts of iron, calcium, other minerals as well, and they're high in vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin D, which is unusual, and vitamin K. So they're extremely nutritious. And they're quite versatile for cooking. You can, first of all, you can take them as a tea, which is one of the best ways to take them as a medicine. And you can pick them and make the tea from the fresh plant, or you can dry the plant and use that for the tea. Once the plant is dried and or heated, the stinging mechanism is finished. So you don't have to ever worry about that. So as soon as you cook it or dry it, it's not going to sting you anymore. So you can easily make a tea from it, and that's a very tasty, nice way to get your medicine and or just enjoy a nice cup of tea. You can also make tinctures and other things from it. But eating it, I was just looking on Google last night. I mean, I've made things with it before, but I just Googled nettle recipes, and there's breads, there's pasta. You can actually make the pasta with the nettles. You can make pesto, you can make all kinds of sauces, you can make cakes, cookies, muffins. There's all kinds of nice steamed recipes. It's just unbelievable how many things you can make with it. And oh, good. Okay. So yeah, so I actually made some spanakopita last night, and I'm going to give some to Liz maybe in a minute when I finish talking. When it comes to picking them, you definitely want to wear gloves. And these kind of gloves, I also have some neoprene gloves in here. And you can pick them without scissors or a knife, but that's kind of difficult because the roots will come up quite easily, and you don't want to rip the roots out, because if you want to come back and pick them another time, if you tear out the roots, they're not going to come back next year. So using a scissors or a knife is best. And gloves are good, but make sure your wrists are also covered, because when you reach down to grab it, you're going to invariably get the leaves touching your wrists. So long sleeves or long gloves are a good idea.
Now, I know folks can't hear me very well, but I see there's a bunch of questions.
Sure. Sure, let's do some questions.
Yeah.
Jenny, if you could read a couple questions.
For sure. We just had one comment from Tina on Facebook saying, I've had stinging nettle ravioli at a restaurant in Vancouver. So people are using it in a lot of different types of recipes. We have a question from Lauren, which was, how do you get the juice from the plant to help with the sting?
Probably just with gloves or something, just take it, squeeze it real good, and whatever you can get out, just put that on. I mean, you wouldn't need a lot, but just squeeze it out. I mean, if you're out in the bush, if you're at home again, and you can use something a little more rolling pin, you can hammer on it, whatever works. But yeah, I mean, in the spring, they're lovely and juicy, and that is the best time to collect them and use them for most recipes. Around June-ish, they flower, and after they flower, they're not as nice and tender. They tend to get more tough. You can still use them for tea. That's not a problem, but they're not going to be as nice.
Yeah, we also
and as far as go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, someone else also said that stinging nettle can make great nutritious soup as well. So kind of
yes,
tea with boiling.
That's another one I saw. I forgot to mention that one. Yeah, I was actually really surprised when I looked online yesterday. It's like, wow.
We have a couple more questions. One was from Gina, which was, what happens to the formic acid when the nettle is dried or heated? So what exactly happens with it? Just doesn't work?
I'm not sure actually what it is, but there possibilities would be that the heat actually neutralizes it somehow. The drying perhaps causes it to evaporate. I don't really know what it is. I've got I've got theories in my mind, but no, I don't actually know.
We have Ronnie said, my experience has been cooking them. The best is to use the small tender plants of it.
Yes.
have
Yeah.
some experience with people cooking with that. Another question is from Sheila, which is, can you talk about how to distinguish between nettle and blackberries?
Okay,
Maybe
so the
bush.
leaves actually look quite a bit similar, and we have blackberries right here. So there is a blackberry right there, and you can see it's very similar looking. Blackberries tend to grow, okay, so there are the invasive Himalayan blackberries, and there's also the native blackberries, which do trail along the ground and might be even more difficult to discern. But the blackberries for sure do not have the opposite leaves, although blackberry leaves are made up of 3 parts. So what you're looking at right there, all three parts are, I don't need the gloves, do I? Haha. So that is all one leaf. So you may think that you've got opposite leaves, but actually these are 3 leaflets that make up the leaf. And they have very distinct and very similar stipules too. But blackberries for sure, they will have thorns, which you'll probably notice. And they if they're Himalayan, they'll be tending to grow up above the ground, above the surface. So you can see that this is on a branching stem, and they kind of creep over and along. This, I think, this is Himalayan, but this is sort of what the native blackberry will do. It trails along the ground. But again, it's gonna tend to be closer to the ground and on a trailing stem. Yeah. And nettles always tend to grow. They very, very rarely do they branch. They tend to just be one stem with the leaves. And yeah, so you don't. Okay, let's have some more questions.
Yes, thank you so much for answering that. I learned a lot. I did not know that the blackberry, I didn't know that was 1 leaf. I always thought it was 3 leaves.
I know, yeah.
We have a question from Diana, which is, can you freeze nettle to use at a later date?
Yes, yes. Best thing to do is to blanch them a little bit. Maybe put a little bit of salt in the water. So blanch them, dry them out, get as much of the juice, the water out, and then just freeze them. And I've done that myself. Basically, if you think about how you would use spinach, you can use frozen spinach. Put nettles in place of spinach, and you can do it. So yeah, so no problem with that.
Should we try what you brought?
Yes, it's right here. I just happen to have some right here in my little container.
Yeah, Jenny, if you just want to mention, I know I'm not super mic'd, what the links are.
Oh yes, so I'm just adding in some links from the learning portal. The first one I have just added in the comment sections on Facebook and in the chat on Zoom is the native plants on the South Coast pathway. So there's a lot of really good resources on there about botany and about how to identify certain plants here on the coast. I'll also put in a link that's specifically for the read section on that pathway. It has a lot of really good resources and books that are great for people to use and identify. Oh, we have another question from Diana again. She said, thank you. Do animals, dogs and horses, feel the sting as much as people?
Oof, that I do not know. Probably a really short-haired dog might. I don't know. Yeah, I do not know that. Probably.
Okay, thank you for the question.
I mean, yeah. I know my dog can get stung when he tries to bite bees, and he's obviously hurting because anyway, so probably, but again.
Is there any other plant similar to stinging nettle that has this type of defense mechanism of like making the person feel some sort of stinging or pain?
Well, there's things like poison ivy and poison oak. I'm trying to think of things around here. I'm having a bit of a blank, but can you think of anything, Liz, that? Yeah.
I mean, they're in other parts of BC.
We do have,
right?
yeah. Nothing that's got that kind of mechanism that I can think of. I mean, there's certainly things that have prickles,
Oh, for
but
sure.
nothing that sort of injects the venom into you.
Mm.
That nasty venom.
Someone says, I think Devil's Club stings. Oh,
Hang on. Now, are you hearing me now, Jenny?
yes.
Okay. Yeah. They were wondering about devil club stinging. That's more prickles, isn't it? Is it or is it sting? It's pretty prickly. I've been prickled by it, but I don't know.
Oh, 1 second. We just can't quite. Oh, there you go. We're good now.
Oh, can you? Okay. Yeah. So I'm mic'd, correct, Jenny?
Yes.
Sorry. So if you didn't hear that, Heidi's just saying with the Devil's Club, the prickle stays in your skin, which is what causes the discomfort. It doesn't have formic acid in it, as far as she knows. I just wanted to take the mic for a second because I have to let you know that I tried the beautiful Spanakopita that Heidi brought, and it is so delicious. And I don't know if you could hear it crunching in my mouth, but I have to say fantastic. And so she just so generously shared her recipe, which Jenny put up. So feel free to try that out. Because we're running out of time here, we're almost at the end. Any other, I did see another question there. It was a really good question and it just went by too quick.
Yeah, we have another question that is from Gina, which is, which part of the plant do you harvest? Just the leaves or the leaves and the stems? Is there specific parts of it?
Okay, I'm gonna mic Heidi in a second, but I know what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, I know that there's a Victoria grade 2-3 class out there. And if they haven't asked a question yet, we'd love to hear from them. If they have any of the grade 2-3s out there from Victoria want to ask a question, you got a couple minutes to ask. And I'm gonna mic Heidi so she can answer that last question there. So you would, right now, like what I just made that Spanakopita with is the stem and the top. So kind of go down to where everything still looks nice and fresh and green. So I would say I'd take like right down to there. Those leaves look like they've been chewed a little bit. The stem and the leaf. Now, as the season progresses, the stem is going to get more and more tough. So you can just take the leaves. That's one thing we didn't mention. So nettles have also been really useful for making nets. The fibers in the stems are extremely strong. So rope, nets, and even clothing. So there are techniques they've used to beat the heck out of them and release just the strong fibers, and they actually can make clothes out of them, which is amazing. And another thing, speaking of the painful, and what they do, they take the plant raw, fresh, and beat the area so that you're actually stinging the area that has the arthritis or rheumatism, which draws blood to the area and actually stimulates the body's cortisol release, which eases the pain and I believe helps with the inflammation. So who'd have thought it? You actually put those stings to good use. Yeah.
We also had another question of, can they be used as dye as well as tea? So they use it as like dye for like coloring stuff?
I know the root can make a really nice yellow dye. When I've made tea, they don't tend to be the tea doesn't tend to be super green, although they're very high in chlorophyll. So I've never, the tea itself, maybe when you put something into dye it, the color might look more green. It looks more yellow to me, but for sure the roots are used as a dye source.
Thank you. We had one suggestion or a request if we could see the inside of one of the Spanacopitas that you made, so they can see what it looks like.
Sure. I'll just take a bite out of it and then show you. How's that? Happy to have another one right here. Phyllo. Yeah. So there you go. Okay. I will take a bite. We won't want you to eat. Nobody likes to be watched when they're eating. There you go. Mm.
Okay. So there we go. So it just looks like Hispanic feta to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm probably pronouncing it wrong.
And you're
How about
probably
you?
not hearing. You're hearing me chewing. I'm gonna, right. We can, okay.
I'm gonna hear you. Okay.
Yeah. So, it just looks like a regular Hispanic feta. And you'll see in the recipe. It depends on, you can put. I guess you can put more inside than I have, but I wasn't sure I was going to have enough. So anyway, that's what it looks like.
Thank you, Heidi. Do you want to, you can mic me again, and I'm going to flip around so people can hear me.
Yes.
Flip the camera. You can hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So thank you very much for joining us. Take that off without losing my mic. Heidi's eating back there. So thank you all for joining us. And if there's any really pressing nettle questions, you could always send them to us, learning@royalbcmuseum.bc.ca, and we'll do our best to get a response back to you. I can send it off to Heidi and she'll try to respond. She will respond. Yeah, but thank you very much for joining us. Is there anything, I know they're going by real quickly, anything else we need to address before we end, Jenny?
I don't see any more questions specifically about nettle, but a lot of people are saying, thank you so much.
Exactly. Okay. Thanks, Heidi. She's hiding off in the bushes. Okay. Thanks very much, everybody. Bye-bye, and hope to see you March 24th on the shoreline for spring. See you. Bye-bye. Stay safe.